Thank you for remembering.
Yeah, let me get that and I'll start the closed captioning. There it is. Let's see if that's working. Okay, perfect. And the minutes. There they are. Let's see. Okay, share screen. Here it is. There they are.
It was a pretty short meeting because we only had a presentation by Lee Hope and we voted to postpone it. And I called Lee, of course, before this meeting, and he is still working on issues and some plan changes and so forth. So he will be ready next month or the following month.
Okay. Well, I'll move to approve these minutes.
Can I make one comment on the minutes? I think I was in attendance at the January meeting, but my name isn't listed.
Oh, I apologize for that. Corla, can you just add Sam's name in real quickly? And
then I think you got to change probably the votes to 601 and 5 or 60.
well, the votes were as I recorded them, and something didn't quite make sense with that. But so you think it was 601?
See, 2, 4.
5. No, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that would be right. Well, and then who's the one?
Maybe Don.
Don doesn't vote. He's not a member.
Vote. I thought it was 501 and then 60, but
That's probably right.
my notes were. I mean, I took notes, but I don't remember, Sam, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad we got Sam in there, and it's just an information item anyway, so
yeah, that doesn't
it's correct as long as the membership. I didn't notice that, Sam, sorry, but it's just whoever attended, I think, is the most important thing. So
we need to change the application, the project motion to continue to 60, I guess.
okay.
And I don't care if you take that off, yeah, and then go down below to 60.
And then 6. There it is. Thank you.
Sam, duly noted and corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Then I will move to approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm recusing myself. I wasn't there.
Okay, so it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I also was not there, but it's always been my understanding that we can vote to approve minutes even if we were not in attendance.
That I don't know.
If that is incorrect, I will withdraw my vote.
Corla, I don't know. Don, if he was here, would know, but he's not.
I don't know either. I just usually don't vote if I haven't been at the meeting.
Yeah, if you're not at that meeting, according to Robert's rules, I know there's a clause in there that says that you wouldn't vote on those meeting minutes. You'd abstain.
Okay, then I changed my vote to abstention.
So is it
402. 1, 2, 3, 4,
401?
02. Javier was not there.
I wasn't there. Yeah, so I'm abstaining also.
It's 402.
Got it. Okay. With that, let's move right along. Do we have any non-agenda public comments?
Well, I have a quick comment. If I mean, Corla submitted the notice that City Council is going to be hearing the code update changes council on Tuesday, and there's a tremendous amount of code changes, but there's one that's really a big policy issue that's going to extend the transit planning area to what they call now a sustainable development area, which will go from a half mile to a mile now, which will probably include all of Point Loma, majority of all of Point Loma now, that will allow ADU bonus dwelling units throughout the peninsula. So this is
Crow flies.
And that's a real big policy change. And
Yeah, and even worse, the 1 mile is a much higher limit than the state of California or even Sandag allows. I believe state of California is a 1/2 mile, and I think either MTS or Sandag is a 1/4 mile. So
right.
it goes way, like the ADU issue itself, it goes way beyond what the state sanctions.
So
reasons.
Paul and Javier, what does that mean for the density allotment?
So well, it means that you can now have more than the ADU and the junior unit. You can have up to, I don't know, depending on your lot, you can split it up to, I don't know. I've seen numbers like 8 units or something with the density. I'm not
You know,
exactly.
we saw one that went to like 10 units or
Yeah,
something
And-
ridiculous out in El Cajon.
and you could by right split any lot with a single family home on it and build 2 duplexes.
And you don't have to provide parking. And if you're in that TPA, it's the parking that's bad as well.
Actually, Paul, you're allowed to build, if you do an SB9 lot split, you're allowed to build 1 primary residence plus 1 ADU on each of the parcels. So you're able to turn 1 into 4. But you can't build a duplex. You have to, my understanding, at least from one that I'm processing right now within the city
okay.
of Vista, they're allowing 2 primaries and 2 ADUs where there was 1 primary residence.
Yeah, well, Vista's different, as well as like La Mesa, which is, they all border us. But like La Mesa has ridiculous height limits. They can build ADUs out there, but it can't be more than 16 feet. And in areas where there's already 2-story homes there.
Same as La
So
Jolla, right?
yeah, I'm not positive about La Jolla. I just happen to, for some reason, know that about La Mesa.
I was adding, I think that's La Jolla's case too. It's 16 feet for an ADU, which takes away the garage ADU over the garage.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're right about that, La Jolla. They're pretty restrictive.
And then as a question to everybody, again, I haven't seen it in any written literature, but it's my understanding that ADUs are no longer going to be required to go through a coastal review, which is the expensive $17,000 process, and they will also not be required to go through our review. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And also no CDPs, because the only thing we're seeing now is people that need a CDP. Is that
That's
gonna go
exactly
away?
what I'm talking about. That $17,000 review, which, I mean, it was expensive and somewhat heavy-handed, but it was also kind of a governor restricting lots more people building ADUs. And
Yes.
now we won't see them.
Which
Terrible.
means I think we won't be seeing any projects.
That's exactly true.
Well,
We're not going to see a lot, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate that this thing flew through the planning commission and the land use committee. I think it just came up on October, and here we are. They're passing this thing, ramming it through. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we weren't able to take a formal position, but the organization Neighbors for a Better San Diego is very well organized. They have some great talking points, points that you could pick up and provide a quick letter to council. So take a look at that if there's interest to speak against it or write in oppose.
I don't know. I think that train may have left the station. Paul, with the changes to the 1 mile limit and the allowance of multiple dwelling units or ADU units, that also carries with it no parking, right? So you can have 10 ADUs and no parking.
Yes.
So you know what that's going to do to parts of Point Loma. At least it's going to really congest the heck out of them.
Well, we all know that, and as the crow flies, a 1/2 mile in many areas, there's canyons and the topography you can't get to. So the whole thing is flawed from the start. So
Well, the 1 mile is no longer as the crow flies. It's walking distance.
Right.
Well,
Studies show that people will not walk more than a half mile to get to transit.
Yeah, that's,
a mile's a long way for a senior or disabled person, so.
And that's the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how long does it
Schlepping all
take
your
to walk?
stuff.
I'll
It
just
takes me
spend
about 20
3
minutes to
hours
walk a mile.
getting there.
Yeah, and then you got to schlep all your stuff back and,
Yeah.
schlep your groceries in the house and that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I see a sea change coming and I'm kind of saddened to see that, it's really going to change the whole complexion of Point Loma. Any Corla or Javier or Paul or Sam or Margaret, anyone else have any informational items?
Just one, and I don't know if anybody else has paid attention to this, but there was a really remarkable CEQA decision a couple of days ago. It was regarded a housing development up in the Rancho Penasquitos area. And in the past, what the city has when they've done their environmental review, they haven't really utilized planned projects as part of their cumulative impact assessment. What they've done instead was only considered projects that have completed their application process and were in process with the city. So even though there were two very large projects that had draft EIRs out on the street, those were ignored. And a judge has thrown those out saying you can't ignore these projects. They're real projects. They're out there. They've started the process. You can't wait until the absolute last step of the process to consider them for cumulative impacts. And that is a huge change in the way the city does business.
So what does that mean exactly going forward with the way they analyze CEQA?
Yeah, any project that's got a draft environmental impact report or other environmental document on the street would have to be considered in terms of the cumulative impacts of all the projects taken together.
Can I split hairs? Are you talking about projects with full EIRs or
No,
projects
draft
with focused?
EIRs or
What's that?
draft initial studies. When they have scoped a project, and now this is my reading from the UT, not from actually reading the decision itself. But you have to, anything that's been scoped and has a draft EIR or initial study out on the streets, that's when you start assessing the cumulative impacts, rather than
Makes sense.
only ones that have completed applications. So he's actually shut down 500 and some odd unit development that's already under construction.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll take my CEQA nerd hat off now.
No, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. I think
Well-
it makes sense. I really do think if you have an initial study out there and
Yeah, you've scoped your project. You know what
Right.
you want to build. Everybody knows what you want to build.
it should be included in the cumulative impacts. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and especially in that area up there, because the issue that the residents are concerned about is fire evacuations. There's only one way in or one way out of this area. So
Oh boy, does that sound like the Peninsula?
no, we have two ways.
So I saw on the news last night. I wasn't able to attend the Midway Rising development dog and pony show, but they did show it on the news, and there was a couple of folks talking about, hey, we can't get out of the peninsula. I said, yeah, that's what we've been saying for years, and now we're going to add more traffic.
Yeah. Oh, another
Well,
thing came up in that meeting or that presentation. I've been wondering, I've been reading a number of city council meetings with very important votes where our elected representative, Dr. Campbell, has been absent. And I learned today from Jeff Page that she's out on some sort of medical issue since the first of the year, and they don't know when she's going to be returning.
Oh, so she's
So
not going to
Speaking of
vote
that
tomorrow.
midway development, there was over 100 neighbors at that meeting. And I find it funny that they're really trying to push as a city, this project into fruition, as quickly as possible. It's funny because, a couple of years ago, everyone was talking about the development for Seaport Village. And that was a pretty big, impactful, project coming down the pipelines, costly too. And that one's kind of been put to the back burner, and the focus now with the city is getting this Midway project up and running it as quickly as possible. And it's a project that is super concerning with so many different issues to the project, and it seems like it's falling, in deaf ears. The concerns. I mean, they're having these public forums. Luckily, you're lucky, like I was, to get a notice on it, but they're not posting it anywhere and promoting that the public can attend, which I just find so shady. And it's like it's like kind of like a do-gooder meeting is how I felt like this meeting is, just to kind of show, hey, the community had a chance to get their input in. Too late, we're moving forward and yada yada. But I just don't like how the city is handling these big concerning projects, because we live in it. We live on the point, and there's just no way out. Should a natural disaster happen, they're not looking at any of those factors. And we live on the very end of San Diego, and it just doesn't sit well with me. So
And even beyond that, the meeting held on Wednesday night was announced on Monday. So
Oh.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
They should have an ample amount of time to get it out to the public.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
And plus the way they structure the meeting, and I know why they do it this way. It's so that there can't be any kind of coordinated action by citizens. They don't
Totally.
have a single hearing. They have stations. So everybody's
Yep,
broken
you're
down
right.
and going to
You're
individual
so
stations.
right, Paul.
And you don't get a concerned person, a concerned, knowledgeable person with a microphone in their hand standing up in front of the room.
Well,
Yep.
That's done
Also-
on purpose. And
also
I know that is
exactly.
because I used to do meetings that way.
well, also back
Take
to
it from an old pro.
Dr. Campbell being out, that means Venus is going to be in charge. So we'll see what happens with that. So
Well, just reading their website, 4,500 units is just gonna make an absolute disaster down there out of traffic.
oh yeah,
And that's just the one development. And then
But
there's
that's just the one part
Midway.
on the sports arena site, yeah.
and that's not Navoir or any of that.
That's not
God
those.
forbid. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just scary when they can't answer questions, common questions. It's, I don't know.
Anyway, well, thank you for those updates. This is one of my favorite parts of these meetings, because we get to hear from informed people about all these issues that are going on. And it takes a lot of effort to stay on top of everything. And like you said, Margaret, half of it's kind of almost done in secret. Anyway. Are
They
there
would
any
get
other
more
information?
support if they involved the neighbors. I'm just saying, they'd get way more support.
Mhm. Okay. Are there any more public comments? Or informational items, Corla?
Not for me. I'm
Okay.
grandbaby busy.
Good for you. Well, with that, let's move into the two topics for today's meeting. The first is our applicant is Samuel Gudino. Is that how you pronounce it, Samuel?
Yes,
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is very much like a part two of a meeting we had a couple of months ago. It's the building down on Rosecrans at 3276, and it's basically re-upping of the permits for a variety of cell site panels removal and upgrades. Could you give us a brief? Is that correct? As a very brief summary, Samuel?
yeah, pretty much. So it's just the underlying permit had expired, and we're actually in right now to do a modification for it. And that modification is just like you said, swapping out existing antennas for new ones, and other radios and whatnot into the cabinets.
Okay, and can you show us a pic, if for everyone who doesn't know, it's the same building down on Rosecrans, it's got the Zygmunt Shields contractor in it, and I don't remember, it was a Wheeler building or something, I think.
Yes, well,
So you
Yeah,
want
that's
to
what we had.
quickly show us your plan, Samuel, and we'll get through this. Like I said, I've told you this, and obviously everyone on board recognizes this, but we had another applicant with another wireless company make virtually the same upgrades, what, about 3 months ago?
Okay, here's the plans that I have. I believe I sent, these are the same ones that I had sent over to you.
Yeah,
Let me know when you
we've
guys can see.
distributed them to the group.
Okay. So this is just kind of the before and after photos, which I feel like they help better than the actual plans themselves. So you can kind of see, let me zoom in here. So this is what's out there now. Oh, sorry, up here, and then the new one down at the bottom. So they're keeping that same look by keeping them within the boxes and that kind of thing.
Mhm. And can I just interject with a quick question? How many companies, how many cellular providers can have antenna on the same building, or is there a limit?
There really isn't, as long as they are not crossing paths. Like if one was shooting to the left and the other was shooting to the right, that wouldn't work. So you'll kind of notice on, at least on this one, this is multiple carriers. So T-Mobile is these three here.
Mhm.
I want to say, I think this is AT&T or a different one, I can't remember. But they're all kind of facing in the general same direction, either straight off or slightly to, this one here is kind of slightly to the right. But yeah, there's really no limit to how many can go on as long as they don't interfere with each other.
And what is so unique about this building? Or is it just that the building owners are wanting to have the leases from multiple antenna companies or cellular
Yeah,
companies?
it's a little bit of everything whenever a site gets built. This one's been around for a while. I think it started out as singular back in the day. And it just depends on, the height of the building, if it kind of meets their, what they're trying to cover. Again, if the property owner is willing to allow that. And if it's in an area where they need either coverage or capacity because the next nearby site is overloaded or that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I know from my experience, I was working with several communications companies on a site up at Gaviota State Beach, where we had a very unique situation where we could shoot up and down Coast Highway there, Old Highway 101, and everybody wanted to be on our building.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's some properties that are like prime real estate where they just have to get on. There's one over in Poway where a guy has basically the prime piece of land. He's got almost every carrier on there because it's the highest one and it covers the best part of that area. It gets tougher when there's a lot of residential nearby. So if you've got the only kind of commercial building in town, that's usually where they'll go to.
And does anyone inside these buildings, I've had one client, a doctor, who had grave concerns over antenna on his building. This was up in Carmel Valley, looking up the lagoon. But he put Faraday shielding in on all the walls and so forth. But if you've got 3 or 4 companies sitting up there with their antenna in an office right in front of them, does that have any harmful effects or known effects at all? Or have you had any concerns from the tenants of the buildings, or do you not have to deal with them because you deal with the owners?
No, I mean, on this one, we haven't heard any kind of, comments or anything about that. There have been sites where there's concerned tenants or, the tenant will actually threaten to, leave the office building because of what's there. Everything that's up there is, within regulations. We run reports every time there's a new antenna that goes in or new, technology that gets put up. We do run what they call, I guess, RF reports to see and make sure that it doesn't exceed the limit for, I guess, people on the ground. So what they'll measure is the ground. So where people actually walk, because behind where the antennas are inside the office building, there's really no issues with that since the antennas are shooting out essentially. So if you're behind it is kind of where you want to be. But if it's high enough and, where it's trying to cover, then typically it's fine. And we do run reports. So if we see that it's exceeding, then we do make changes to either the antenna or, where we're trying to place it, because then again, it won't be in compliance and T-Mobile won't even move forward with it if they see that it exceeds the EME.
Okay, and can I just ask one architectural question? We've had a conversation for this previous applicant about these nodes on the building. Was there ever any talk or negotiation or concern about making your antenna match the ones adjacent to yours or vice versa, in terms of size, spacing, detail articulation, and so forth?
Yeah, so I think on this one, that's why they are they're not as tall, because I think this is one of the smaller antennas and it's for the purposes of keeping it within, I mean, as much as possible, the facade there, so that it doesn't stick up above the existing roof line. That's both a city thing, and also sometimes the property owners will say, hey, can you keep this somewhat uniform on the outside so it doesn't stick out quite so much?
Well, I was talking about the photo on the right side of your screen that you're showing that shows 4 antenna by a different carrier, and then your 3, and they're similar but not the same. And
Yeah,
they're
and that's
shaded differently and so forth. It seems to me that it would have been nice, not that you could have done anything about it from a technical standpoint, to have equal spacing like they were part of the designed architectural element of the building. But I mean, it's kind of neither here nor there. I'm just pointing out that it seems like something that would have been good to have addressed.
yeah, and I think that's I want to say this carrier was probably here first, and that's why they have the layout that they do. And T-Mobile kind of found a spot on the corners to stick their equipment in there.
Got it.
So what we do try to do, and the city likes to push for as well, is to put them within similarly sized boxes. So here, as you can see, this one is kind of shooting off to the side. What I can almost bet is that when they go in to modify, the city will tell them to mimic this box here.
I think we've already approved the 4 to the left, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
as is?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they beat you to it.
Huh.
Okay.
But then again, if they would have hired an artist, he probably would have made him unsymmetrical anyway, so.
Maybe. And I noticed that your permit's already expired. Was there any talk of that, or is it just because it takes so long to get things through the city?
Yeah, so we had already known that it was going to be expired, or after it expired, and then when we went in to submit, what we hear from the city is that they are understaffed and everyone is overloaded. So I mean, we got a ton of projects in there with them, and
How many?
that's kind of the story. We got quite a few throughout the city. I don't know, 40, 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they
I
do
hear
get
that
they
from
do
the
get
city
quite overloaded.
all the time. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Can you carry on real quickly, and then let's let the members ask any questions?
No, I mean, I think I have, unless you have other questions on the site itself, or,
No, you answered the questions that I had when reviewing this. Paul or Sam or Javier or Corla, anyone have any other?
Margaret would like to make a
Margaret.
motion.
Not meaning to leave you out.
Margaret would like to make a motion.
Oh. The motion to,
Accept the request.
okay. Do I have a
So-
second?
I'll second, but what I understand is that from what I heard is that they're just replacement. We're not adding new, it's just strictly replacement.
Yep.
Yeah, correct, okay,
Replacements and upgrades, yeah.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Like all the other ones.
Well, we have a motion from Margaret and a second from Javier. May we have a vote, please? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Corla, Margaret, you're obviously a yes, so that's approved 6-0. Well, Samuel, thank you. Good luck with the remainder of your processing. I'm sorry you're behind on this one and probably a bunch of others.
Yeah.
But you've been great to work with. You called me super responsibly and you were very proactive, so I appreciate that.
all right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next project is one that is very near and dear to me because it is literally across the street from my former business partner's house, which I've told Corla at least about, and I think mentioned to the planning review board last month, has just been practically destroyed. But this is it's a complete demolition and new construction of a single family residence and ADU. It's at 3624 Warner Street. And excuse me, our applicant is Bill Bakken, and I've seen him on the phone, and Bill and I have spoken numerous times in preparation for this meeting. And so I think it's a modestly scaled house, but Bill, could you talk us through it, please?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't know. I thought you had my plans.
Oh, we do. We can bring them up.
Okay, because I'm a little technically challenged.
That's okay.
Like we all are.
I
Let's see
know.
what I can do here. Okay.
Thank you, Corla.
Uh,
We actually,
I have
that's part of the
two-
reason I wanted your plans. We distribute them to the group before the meeting so that they have a little bit of chance to
Yeah.
review them.
I was
And-
hoping you could pull up the rendered ones.
Sure.
A little easier to understand.
just give me a second here. Oh, boy.
Corla, I think they're in the end of the packet, his rendered drawings. They're
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to share them.
share your own screen.
Yeah,
I would be technologically challenged as well.
Mhm.
I'm having a bit of an issue getting to my, let's see if I can get this now. There they are. Okay, let me move.
That's
Yeah,
There we go. Here's what I have.
perfect.
And this is probably a good one to start with, guys. This, do you want me to proceed?
Yeah, I would like you to tell us a little bit about the background about the house that's there, which is a very modest and interesting house.
It's a
Um,
30.
And what the program is.
Yeah, the existing house, like a 30, little over 3,000 square feet, 3,300 square foot house and a independent garage. It sits, this is actually 2 lots in the wooded area on the corner of Warner and Silvergate. It's a beautiful lot.
Mhm. It is.
And the existing house pretty much sits sort of in the same location of we're putting the new house. It's a smaller house, but it sits in the same area. It sits on the left lot. Now, we're sort of putting the house on the same, sort of the same general area, but the house is going to straddle the property line. These are actually 2 separate lots. And because these are 2 14,000 square foot lots, so it's a total of about 28,000 square feet. We're slightly straddling the property line between them, which automatically combines the 2 lots into 1 lot. The intention is not to build 2 independent houses here. It's just to build 1 house and then an ADU supporting that 1 house. And the massing of it is we're taking our access. Well, keep with the site plan, please. We're taking access from Warner Street, which is at the bottom of the sheet. And then we're taking our vehicular access from the alley. So there's sort of no driveways that are going to be proposed on Silvergate and or Warner. Currently, there is a pretty wide driveway on Warner that's accessing the garage. It's the house and the garage are not currently accessed from the alley.
And, that alley is quite narrow.
I think it's a standard 20-foot alley, but yeah. The
Well,
city
you
sort of
got that
mandates now
road
that you
going.
access from the alley.
Mhm.
So it's not sort of a choice. And what we've done is we have located the small structure on the left is a 1-story ADU. And then the larger structure is the house. And it's 1 story partial to, the second story is pushed more towards the alley to get it further from Warner Street.
Okay.
There's a pool in the back you can see that's in the lawn area. There's a lot of landscaping. That whole lot on the right basically now is like a landscape lawn and trees. And basically, except for the sort of the pool area, it's sort of intact. I'm showing this on these plans. There was a future kids playhouse you can see on the right side, the right upper side of the screen.
Yes.
That is going to be removed. So that is not going to be part of this. There was some question about it with the review. And so the owner didn't feel particularly dedicated to it. So I thought it best be removed and keep that whole area of the site for landscaping. We're not intending on grading the property. We're sort of working with the natural terrain. It's slightly sloped down to Silvergate. The house and the guest house or the ADU are all on the same elevation, so it's very accessible for a handicapped person. The family, it's Casey and Maybrit Haling, young, very hardworking couple, and their 2 children. And the ADU is meant primarily for Casey's mother to come stay. And so that's sort of how it functions. You can see the ADU is very, it helps to form an entry courtyard to the house. So it's very, it's more adept as a guest house, I guess, than it would be used as a separate independent dwelling unit.
It's well integrated. Can you just give us the history? Why did they decide to tear down in its entirety this house? Is this just sort of the
Well, that
general
existing house,
format?
we already got that. The existing house is deemed non-historic. They went through the process with the city on it. From a standpoint of a very snobby architect, it's not a really great piece of architecture. It's not particularly well made, and they just there's, sometimes you try to deal with these things. I've been doing this a long time. It's just a lot more money to try to deal with it and all the problems associated it.
I understand, and thank you for that answer. It sounds
And it's also
quite sincere. Yeah.
I think, we obviously want to take advantage of this property. The property is spectacular. It is spectacular. And the idea is that the last thing we wanted to do is put the house in the middle of the lot, because it sort of creates leftover space all around it. We wanted to make it so that from the back of the house looking towards Silvergate, there's sort of this pastoral scene that you're seeing with these. There's an immense oak tree and a podocarpus tree and some just phenomenal pine trees around there that along with some peppers, that it just makes a really sort of rural sort of landscape. And the idea of when you see the front elevation of Warner, it is extremely subdued. This house is not meant to, I don't want to say impress, but it's not meant to be some statement piece. It's really meant to be sort of, they asked me, well, how would you describe it? And I said, it's sort of gets its cues from sort of a rural California ranch home. And I felt that vernacular was extremely appropriate for the wooded area. I used to live in the wooded area over on DuPont Street, and I built a new house there. And I went through this committee to get that approved. And I felt strongly that the wooded area it's such a special neighborhood with it's such a quiet spirit there. the landscaping, the trees are such part of the streetscape as they are part of the landscape of the house. And I wanted the house to be very quiet and sit very quietly in these trees.
I couldn't agree more. Have they asked you to put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk yet?
I didn't see that, and we're gonna fight it tooth and nail if that happens. We may be required to pave the alley because that's what they're doing to applicants. They penalize you, or I shouldn't say they penalize. What they do is they require you to take access from the alley, and then if the alley's not improved, then they make you pave it because it's the city's way of doing public improvements without having to pay for them.
Sure.
They make the applicant pay for it. So we may have to do that. I didn't see that yet. It may not happen until the building department submittal, but I know I had to do that on my house. And so I've heard from other architects that they have to do that too.
It comes up on almost every project in the woods.
Yeah, it's kind of screwy because I think I sort of like the quaintness of the alleys, but it's that's how it is. From the so we're accessing from Warner. We're coming in through a little gate under a trellis, and then we come into sort of a cloisters that will have trees. We're looking at potentially putting a very large olive in there to sort of create a natural canopy for the courtyard. And then basically you can see right through the house into its back patio and out towards the lawn and the garden area at the rear of the property. So we're not this is the setbacks, we're not proposing any sort of violation of blah, blah, blah. We're working with all the requirements of the zone and the setbacks. In fact, I think most of the time we're over setbacked.
Well, yeah, you're on a huge lot. So
We're on a
can you
huge
walk
lot.
us through the floor plans and elevations real quickly?
You
and then
can,
let's have
yeah,
a
if you
brief
want to go to
conversation?
go to the floor plans first,
Okay.
and you'll see the courtyard on the left, and we've put an outdoor fireplace in that courtyard as a focal point, and then the ADU has it has a lounge area and a sitting room and a bedroom, and attached to that ADU is a bike storage, because the owner feels that once you put bikes in the garage, you can't put cars in, which is they have a lot of bikes for their kids and for having fun. So we have a separate place for the bike storage and for surfboards and things like that, so that the garage can be used actually to put cars. And we've got a 4-car garage along with an auto court, so that the kids also use the auto court for a play court too. And then on the right, you enter, it's a great room with open kitchen, fireplace, then a very large covered terrace on the back for sort of indoor-outdoor living, an outdoor kitchen. The whole master suite is on the bottom of the screen, which is a primary bedroom off the back patio. And it has a bathroom, closet area, and then an office for his wife, Maybert, works from home. So that would be her office, little powder room. And then the top of the plan, you'll see, if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see there's a little fitness center gym that accesses the pool, and then a guest room and a large laundry room. And then the kids' rooms are, and then obviously you go out on the patio towards the pool. He's an avid swimmer. And so the pools, I think, is going to be shrunk down a little bit in its length. We have 2 very large trees, one a podocarpus to the top of the screen, and then to the bottom of the screen is a very beautiful, just immensely beautiful oak tree. And we just want to make sure we're having the arborist come out and look at the location of the pool in compared to the roots of the trees. So we don't want to sacrifice the health of the tree for the pool length. So that's why I think when you see this again, the pool length may be shrunken a little bit to achieve that. And then if you want to go upstairs, we have, so the kids' bedrooms are, yes, this sheet. Kid bedrooms are up the stairs, and there's like their play lounge. They're going to have a study at the top of the screen for their homework and their assignments and doing crafts. And then there's 2 separate bedrooms there. They each have their own bathrooms, but a large lounge area so they can hang out with their friends up here. It's sort of a little different play than normal houses. You know, normal houses, you come in and there's a living room and then a separate family room. Well, our downstairs is one big room. So it sort of works for the family, but if the parents were entertaining or something, they'd be downstairs and then the kids have another place to go. So it's a little different idea, but that is sort of how it lays up. Then let's look at the front of the house, which is, if you scroll down, please. Keep going. This elevation is the south elevation, which is the front of the house. So you can see there's, it's pretty much all one story on that elevation. It's a very sort of rural architecture. It's going to have a darkened standing seam roof. It's going to have a stucco exterior. There's an existing fence around most of the property that you can see to the right. I've kind of highlighted it in pencil. And it is a grape stake fence. We plan on keeping that fence because I like this sort of old world, sort of not so new. And it seemed to fit the house. And then you'll enter through a gate where it says entry under a trellis into the courtyard. Then I'm just indicating some of the trees. Some of these pine trees are there. You can see the large, huge oak to the right. It's probably even bigger than my drawing shows it, but it's extremely important to the property. This shot is the shot with the garage doors. This is what you see once you're in the courtyard and you've come in through the street and you're looking at the front door, the trees in the courtyard. And then there's sliding doors on both sides, and then the central entrance door. So you can see it's a good size sloping roof. And then to the left, you see the garages, and then the kids' wing above. The kids' wing sort of makes an X in plan so that they form like gables. We're pushing them back away from the edge so that they are not so imposing. The bottom elevation shows what it is looking from the pool, or from the garden, the whole backyard, and what you see from the house. All the glass doors that you see at the center are basically sliding doors to the covered patio. Above it, you have clerestory windows to let light into the living room. And there's a large overhang that shows in plan. The master suite's on the left, looking out towards the large oak tree. And then on the right, you'll see it's the guest wing with the gym and the children's rooms above, also showing that other existing massive podocarpus tree to the right. This is a good drawing to see. It gives you a better idea, guys, because it shows The orange line you can see that's sort of, I've highlighted it, highlights where the new house is. And then the black lines indicate the existing house. This also shows the existing major trees on the site too. So you can sort of get the idea that the existing house was on that left side of the property, and then the new house is, a lot of it's on that side too, but there's a little bit that crosses that dotted line, which is the separation of the two lots.
Yeah, you're only losing like 3 small trees.
Yeah, we'll see, you know, because we haven't gotten structural people involved yet and all that stuff. So we're hoping, I'm hoping the reason the owner bought it was not in spite of the trees, it was because of the trees. So there's a concerted effort to save them where we can. And sometimes I think when we talk to the arborist, in some cases, if we can't save something, we might even try to move it. So that we haven't got a landscape plan yet, but we're starting to work on it, and it's extremely excited. It'll be a very sort of a rural landscape. This isn't going to be a fancy landscape. If you scroll down, you'll see these are my image boards for the property that show sort of the spirit of the house, and how I felt that this type of a house would be so appropriate for this neighborhood. Granted, it's a bigger house, but I think it's just a massive lot. And I felt that it's not some hugely ginormous house, but I think if it's low and it works well with this side, I think it could marry very well with the not just with its site, but with the neighborhood. It was funny that you were mentioning the house across the street.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually working, I had done plans for that house prior to the current owner. And then when my client decided during the pandemic, decided to sell that property, and then decided I didn't think he liked what I was doing with the design, and he selected a different architect. Yeah,
Your client wasn't Gary Nogle, obviously. He sold the house originally.
my client, yeah, he sold it because they moved to Arizona. But this was, and I don't even think we were going to go through coastal because we were doing a remodel. I don't know if the current one had to go through coastal either, but
It didn't. We didn't see it.
yeah, I was surprised. I don't know, because that property across the street is so beautiful. The garden in there and everything. I don't know what they're doing.
So I've told members of this committee, and I'll just tell you, it was my business partner's house. He bought it many years ago. He remodeled.
Oh, he was an architect, wasn't he?
Yes. He
Oh, yeah,
remodeled it painstakingly. They were selected for the cover of Sunset Magazine's National Edition. And when we drove by this weekend, my wife looked through the fence and literally almost started crying. They bulldozed the lot. He had trees that he bought that were $10,000 to $15,000 specimen trees because he wanted mature, beautiful trees. And he spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars meticulously rebuilding a 1910 craftsman style house. And they've turned it into a box.
Yeah, well, yeah,
we didn't see it.
I was no comment, but no, yeah, anyway, it's water under the bridge. But the other thing I wanted to state that if you scroll down right, keep going, stop. So the bottom elevation is what the neighbor at 3642 Warner sees. So you can see the ADU is it's actually cut into the ground a little bit to keep the floor plates the same. So it really reduces that height there. There's already a 6-foot fence, which I'm showing, that covers most of this. And with that said, I did encourage the owner, because I always think it's good to make your neighbors aware of what you plan. And so he went around and he talked to all of the owners of the properties around us. And all of them were fine with this design. We didn't have any sort of input in terms of its adverse reaction to it. Yeah, and actually the person that I was most, if anybody, we were trying to be very sensitive to the people right next door, because we only really have one neighbor, adjacent property owner, and that neighbor was very, very supportive to the client.
Well, I think that's a great presentation, Bill, and I'd like to open it up for conversation. I just want to lead off with a comment that I think that this is an absolutely perfect fit for the woods, for the character of the woods, and a beautiful, beautiful job of the architecture. And it's great to see old school drawings with Hansel.
Which is why I couldn't figure out how to download them.
This is a blending of the old world and the new world, but it still takes beautiful design to do good architecture.
Would anyone like to see any pages up or down, or can we stop screen sharing at this point?
I wanted to see where the new garage would be for, and I suppose that's one further down.
Let's see. On this, Sam?
Yeah, where is the new garage?
The new garage, see where if you look up and it says gas meter
Yeah,
on the survey, that area, that rectangle around that is where the new garage is. If you look to, I guess if you looked at the site plan, it would be more helpful than this drawing. If you scroll up, you can get to the site plan.
Bill, just measuring on Google Earth, that alley appears to be anywhere between, say, 14 and 18 feet wide. It really doesn't matter, though, because my point in making that observation was that you have a motor court, which is amply sized to park your cars and not try to back onto a narrow.
No. And we didn't want to do that. See, you can see the garage is on the top left there. It's sort of an odd shaped garage because we had some of it deep and for longer vehicles and some of it short, but it does have an auto court, and the auto court's really doing two things, because I don't want to back out into an alley. That's like suicide. And also because the kids use it, they could put a basketball hoop up and play in it. The kids are pretty young, but I thought it gives it sort of, we don't really have a driveway on the street, and it's an area for the kids to play, and we would probably have a gate, an auto gate, so that it would be secured so that the kids wouldn't wander out. Although this is a great area to wander out. If you look down, up and down Silvergate all the time, you see just kids on their bikes. And I'm going like, God, you don't see that anymore. You know, it's
excuse me, in the area where you back the cars, I assume that these two open areas are where you park cars, and then is that area you back into, is that paved, or how?
That's paved. That's paved.
Okay.
The paving doesn't go to the property line because we'll have a landscape strip there.
Okay.
And we're deliberating over the paving, if it will be like a permeable paving, but it wants to be, it may be like interlocking blocks or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what that is yet. But that is a place. So the cars, they'd have room for 4 cars in the garage, and they'd have enough room for God knows how many if they wanted to put them in the auto court or have the kids play in the auto court. But the owner did not want to. And also, I think it actually makes the alley more attractive, because you're not looking at, big garage doors lined up. You're seeing windows towards the alley.
Yeah, that alley is also a little difficult in spots. I drove it. So,
Did you?
yeah, it's there's some areas where there's been some washouts.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because on my house when I lived on DuPont, and they made me pave the alley behind my property, but there was there was dirt roads on both sides of it, and they were in terrible shape. And I would ask the city, would they do something if they could put gravel or at least make sure that you could navigate it? And of course, no way. I was like, thank you. But I think the neighbors go out and they fill it up with gravel and do stuff, sort of, you know, make it be a little nicer, but anyway. So that's my presentation. If anybody has questions, I'd be happy to address them.
I just have a quick, I didn't catch what the square footage was on the ADU, and yeah, it's, as Joe said, it's a beautiful house.
That's a good point. Good point. Oh, the ADU is around 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
The
great.
house is about 5,500 square feet, not including the garage. The garage is big. It's like 1,100 something square feet.
Yes, and I noticed you have a kitchen and a dirty kitchen. I only have a dirty kitchen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how you managed to get both?
You know what? This is a big thing now. I don't know, but it's like you come in this house. There's no family room. You know, this is the room, and so that kitchen is front and center constantly, and so the kitchens look good. So the dirty kitchen is acting sort of as a pantry. You know, that she might have a little desk in there, and you know, it's where you might put like all the coffee maker on the counters and all that crap that looks so terrible. That's where that goes. So then the presentation kitchen looks, you know, it looks good.
Yeah.
The new
Beautiful
thing.
house. Beautiful.
Everyone should have one of those.
Yeah.
Everyone, and they're gonna have like, I think they're gonna have a pizza kitchen outside and stuff. It's like, I want to live here. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I think your 3 kitchens are bigger than my house.
That's funny. Yeah, well, there's that.
Would
There's
anyone else like to see any pages here while we're sharing?
Margaret, you've been quiet.
No, it's going to be a beautiful property. My biggest thing was the greenery in the wooded area. And it seems that there was a ton of beautiful trees out front. So that was my only concern, is keeping a lot of that privacy with those trees. And I don't really have an issue because you're not really building up in that area. I have a lot of family that lives near that street, so we walk it pretty frequently. So you've addressed my tree concerns.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, you know, it's really, the trees are important. That's why they call it the wooded area.
Yeah, exactly.
And when I hear when I lived up there and we would hear tree trimmers, oh my, you know, you'd go out and they'd be cutting down a tree.
Yeah, it
Oh,
would get, my aunt gets really freaked out to this day.
I don't blame you.
But no, it looks like it's going to be a really pretty piece of property. So yeah, I definitely approve whatever you need.
Yes,
So
Paul.
is it premature to offer a motion?
Well,
No,
and if you
I'm happy
do,
to make one.
Okay,
do we
well,
want to preemptively talk about the sidewalks and the curb and gutters that are
Oh,
going
yeah.
to come up in LDR?
yeah.
Sure.
I think we should support that in our motion, the way that we have with other properties in that area, that we don't see any need for that requirement. So
Definitely.
whoever makes that motion could include that, I think.
Have you been successful?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it, guys, because we don't want it. My client doesn't want it. I don't want it. The landscape people are looking at, they don't want it. So
No one wants it.
No, there's no
The
need.
bureaucrats.
I'm happy to
no
make
town.
that motion with that added verbiage, Corla, to the motion.
Second. Although
Okay.
I
I think I
will
have
point
Paul
out
Webb
that-
as a second.
Can you restate your motion, please, Margaret?
Yes, let me get the correct verbiage here.
Thank you. I mean, I've got the
Yes.
gist of it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I can do it for you right now. It's just, I will, let me see, Corla, okay, so I would like to approve. This is the Warner Street one, the coastal development permit for construction of the new 2-story single what is that? That's what you needed, right? Was a coastal development permit,
It's a CDP, yes,
a
Margaret.
CDP. And then Corla, can you add what you stated about the sidewalk?
Yes, I'd say that we can address the city that we don't feel this project needs any requirements for sidewalks, or what else, Paul?
Curb, gutter, and
Curb,
sidewalk.
gutter.
Yeah, or
Curbs, gutters,
curbs,
and sidewalks.
curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. There we go. No need for a requirement for curbs, gutters, and sidewalks.
And that's part of the end of my motion.
And I support the motion, even though I know my wife goes crazy whenever we do this sidewalks issue, because she grew up in a small town in Mississippi and she swears she will never live anywhere if she doesn't have a sidewalk.
It's understandable.
Well, I guess that rules the woods out.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
You
with
may
that,
think
can
I'm
we-
joking, but literally the wooded area is out.
Oh, darn.
Assuming we can afford it.
yeah, exactly. Get out your checkbook. Well, this is going to be an absolutely spectacular house. With that, though, may we have a vote before I get ahead of myself? One,
Margaret's
two,
a yes, of course.
3, 4, 5, 6, 0 approved. Now I will say it again. I just think you've done an outstanding job. I think this is beautiful, Bill.
I agree. Super beautiful.
Thank you so much. That's great. I'm glad you like it. Also, so do I come back in another month and do this again?
No, let me, I was just going to get to that. There will be a meeting at 6 o'clock next Thursday evening. And it's the full Point Loma Community Board. It's the multi-member board. And you will be agendized. It's probably, the meetings start at 6, but you may not be heard until 6:30, 6:45, 7. It just depends on who makes presentations before that. And we will show the screen. And if you could just make a very brief, maybe 2-3 minute type of presentation to the panel, to the board, then we will of course introduce it and explain to them how we voted and why and so forth.
That's the 16th.
Let me check.
I think,
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's the
It is.
16th at 6 p.m.
and Joe, if you'll send me Bill's email, I will send him the link to register and the agenda.
Yeah, the
Do I have to
registration bill is
register?
just like you did for this.
Oh, you got to do it again? Okay.
You have to register for each meeting individually.
Oh, I didn't know
independently,
that. Okay.
but the format is exactly the same. And yeah, you're going to be the second project up, but the cell towers will go first, and then you'll go in the same order as we did today.
Okay.
Cell
Okay.
tower will be quick, I think.
And just be patient.
Is there usually like, 500,000 people at these things? Or
No. Zoom.
I don't know.
Well, it'll help that we voted ahead of time for you. The board really depends on our input and our voting ahead of time, so that will definitely help.
Be a pretty small meeting, Bill. It will be, and it'll be pretty easy. If you just shorten your presentation, it should go right through.
Like I
think-
said, 2 or 3 minutes is plenty. Just say it's
Oh, okay. Short and sweet.
short and sweet. The pictures will speak for themselves. We will show the colored renderings that you have. And I'll make a brief introduction, and then it should be, I think this is going to be really fun.
Is it gonna be, is it how many people are the full board?
Well, that's a great question. It's supposed to be 15, but I think it's more like 13 right now.
And then is the public invited? I would-
Yes, they are. It will be publicly noticed, just as this meeting was 72 hours before, unlike that massive development on Midway, right, Margaret?
Who didn't notice? Yeah.
That's so stupid, isn't it? But yeah, that's okay, because I haven't done this with a Zoom meeting, so it's sort of weird to me.
It's exactly
Weird
like
for us
what you
too.
just did today, only a more brief.
Okay. If you could just send me the notice or the invite, and then I'll register and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and that'll be Monday. That'll be probably Monday afternoon, early evening. As soon as I get the agenda, I have the link and everything, but as soon as I get the agenda and Joe sends me your email, then on Monday, I will send that to you next week.
Just don't go in being a snobby architect, okay?
Yeah.
What's this? Oh, it's, yes. I was just, this morning, I was gonna be on this television show where I finished a project up in Oceanside on the beach, this big hotel, and they shot a segment on it. If you ever go to Oceanside, stay at the Seabird Resort.
Okay,
It is fabulous. It is fabulous. I don't say so myself.
Nice plug.
how do you spell that? S-E-A Berg?
At Seabird, yes.
Oh, Bird,
S-E-A Bird.
got it.
Oceanside is booming right now.
It
They are
is
just
really nice.
redeveloping overnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was
80-foot height limit, Margaret,
That'll do
I
it.
don't like that.
right on the beach.
I don't like that.
Wow.
Well, excellent job, Bill. We'll see you next Thursday at 6 o'clock.
okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Bill,
Thank you.
Bye.
And with that, does anyone have any other topics we'd like to discuss?
Well, I sort of wondered if we should have warned them, in the wooded area, anything can happen when we go to a meeting. I can remember when over two
That's
stop
so
signs,
true.
we had a couple of hundred people and television cameras.
I guess
That's
it
so
can,
true,
but
Paul. I swear.
that guy, he is very talented. That is a beautiful house.
It
I
is.
Oh,
feel pretty
lovely.
confident since none of the neighbors are here or are objecting. So if no neighbors are showing up, I think we can keep our fingers crossed. But
No,
you're
I was kidding about that.
Oh, I know,
still
I know.
marvel at the two stop sign projects.
well, they've been
I
back
remember
on.
those.
They've been back on next door about parking down there at La Playa, at the beach with the 2-hour parking. So people are riled up about that again. So we'll see what happens with that one of these days.
Well, anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So with that, I think we should conclude this meeting. It's, oh my gosh, it's 4:15.
Yeah, I gotta hop off, guys.